Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel, and today, a week later, but I bring you the review of last week's chapter of One Piece, 820 of its name, Dog and Cat Have a History. Before I begin, some warnings and some things I want to say to you. Yes, I know I am pretty late with, well, not that late, but I am late with Fairy Tail and the Seven Deadly Sins review. I know that, and you guys are gonna have to wait a little bit longer for that. I'm gonna bring them next week together with next week's chapters because Fairy Tail chapter, I think it goes well with the next chapter, which will be the conclusion of the fight. So having them two together kind of seems like a nice fit. And well, since I'm doing Fairy Tail that way, I might as well as do the Seven Deadly Sins as well. So once again, I'm sorry for the delay, but next week I will bring them to you. I can't promise that on Monday or Tuesday because some things will happen. Let's just leave it like that. Some things will happen, and I might not be able to bring them in either of those 2 days. So I ask for your forgiveness and your comprehension. It is out of my reach, and I really might not have time to do the videos. Second warning is regarding this video you are watching now. I will try not to make it a usual review. I'm not just gonna follow the chapter and talk about it because this chapter is very vague. Let's say it like that. It advanced a little bit, not a lot, but the majority of the information of this chapter is regarding the future of the arc and future arcs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm still gonna follow the chapter. I'm gonna talk some bits about the chapter, but I'm going to stop a lot and just think on the things that are said in the chapter and try to make a projection for the future, and also express some concerns I have with the current situation that the Straw Hats and the Minks are in, and also the repercussions of that situation to the flow of things that they want to follow in the story. So without further ado, enough chit chat, let us begin with the chapter, and we finally know why Inuarashi said a few chapters back that he recognized Luffy's hat. They were actually aboard Roger's ship. Oh well, everybody was in Roger's ship now. That's fantastic. But no, they were not crew members, as I suspected. They just went there when Kozuki was in the ship. So that gets me thinking. If they were there all the way, that means that Kozuki, If they weren't there all the way because Inuarashi said that they haven't been to Laftel, then that might mean that Kozuki didn't went to Laftel as well, or he did, but Inuarashi and Nekomamushi stayed in Zou when they got through there. The question now is, when did Kozuki enter Roger's ship? Because if you remember back in Skypiea, Roger, well, that time we thought it was Roger, but someone from Roger's crew managed to write in the ancient language of poneglyphs. And that matter has been a source of debate for many years since that scene appeared in the story, and now we pretty much can guess that Kozuki was actually the one responsible for writing those letters. The thing is, when did Kozuki, and thus Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, went aboard Roger's ship? Was it after he got in the Grand Line? Before? Did they went to Wano and then Skypiea? Because that really doesn't make any sense. I mean, we know that they had to go back. Once they've reached the final island of the Grand Line, they actually had to go back when they learned about the road poneglyphs. So maybe that's when they actually met Kozuki, after they got to the end. They were like, okay, we need to know about this. So Chop chop, let us go back. But did they went all the way back? All the way back to Twin Capes and all that? It, I really want to see the flashback of the Roger flashback. I want to see all the history, because it really it bugs me a little bit, because if they went, okay, they went to the final island. Let's imagine that they went to Skype after they got to the final island. It doesn't seem coherent, you know. I don't know. Anyway, Roger's past is of no discussion today, but the chapter at hand is. So, an interesting fact, staying on topic of Roger's crew, Inuarashi said something very important. We weren't any older or not much more important than the sort of apprentices that Shanks and Buggy once were. So, does that mean that Shanks, Inuarashi, Buggy, Inuarashi, Shanks, Buggy, and Nekomamushi all have the same age? Because that would be pretty interesting. I always imagine Inuarashi and Nekomamushi to be like much, much older than they appear. I always thought that the Mings had a superior lifespan to that of humans. And so I imagine Inuarashi and Nekomamushi to be about the same age as Brook, but a little bit more conserved than Brook. Because, I think it's the Fishmen or the Tontatas that have a superior lifespan, or both. Maybe both. But I think it's the Tontatas that have a superior lifespan to humans. I thought the Minks would be something similar. But nonetheless, that's interesting to know. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi just started as nothing. So there were kings before them. Who might they have been? Will we ever know? I doubt it. Sincerely, honestly, I do doubt it. Because it's not that big of a deal. But still, it's an interesting thing to consider that Inuarashi and Nekomamushi were once nobodies, like Shanks and Buggy were. So pretty interesting. And despite their former rivalry, they are all merry and cheery and hugging each other and singing their lungs off, remembering the good old times aboard Roger's ship. New races, new places, climbs, sights unseen, a sea of clouds floating in the sky. So they were in Skypia and in Fishman Island, because islands floating on the sea floor, sunlight shining. So yes, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi went to these places as well, Skypia and Fishman Island. So my question remains, when did Kozuki enter aboard Roger's ship? And we know that they knew Tom. They knew Tom's son from Water 7. They were there either a while before, or either just at the moment of the Oro Jackson's acquisition. And so my doubts remain. When did they aboard the ship? But that's probably a doubt to be solved later on in the story. And now we found as well that not only that Oden, not Kozuki, that Oden wasn't only aboard Roger's ship, but also Whitebeard's ship. So my God, the man just went to everyone. But why? Why did he? I mean, Roger, one can guess. One can guess why. If we put Roger and Luffy like being the same and having the same attitude, Roger was probably the sort of fellow that make allies like the blink of an eye. So Oden wanting to follow Roger is in and on itself self-explanatory. But now, what would Oden gain from being on Whitebeard's ship? Apart from his allegiance, of course, but as we know, even back then, the Shogun of Wano was like a thick-headed fellow. So I really don't think that having Whitebeard, a pirate, as an ally would really please him up. But we don't know. Maybe it was an order from the shogun, but it doesn't seem like it because as Kanjuru, yes, I am already confusing their names. As Kanjuru saying, leaving the borders of the country is a crime. So Oden, a daimyo of Wano country, actually committed a crime by leaving the country. And not only that, boarding two influent pirate ships, the Pirate King and the one who came to be known as the strongest man alive. So yeah, the guy likes to live the life. YOLO, right? So but yes, I really don't see any. Maybe he was looking for someone who could take in the story of his predecessors. And that between Whitebeard and Roger, he found that Roger would be more suitable for that. But even then, he got a friend on Whitebeard, so maybe that's it. But nonetheless, Kinemon, Kanjuro, and supposedly Raizo met with Whitebeard and Roger when they landed in Wano. So there we go, another cool detail. Whitebeard and Roger landed in Wano during their journeys. My God, this I've said this a lot during the last videos, but it's never tiring to say that the Zou saga is becoming one of my favorite arcs in arc saga. I know I mixed the two terms because saga, I believe saga is something larger than arc is the tiny wee bits that compose a saga, but I always mix the terms, so forgive me on that. But the Zou arc is the arc I was expecting it to be. Not a arc of huge fights or anything like that, but an arc of history, of revelations, of news, or learning something that was by far some of the most important mysteries of One Piece have been touched in this arc. The mystery of the poneglyphs, the location of Laftel, Roger's crew and his journey. Everything is being talked about in this arc, and that's what makes Zou arc one of the best arcs so far in One Piece. Yes, it's probably coming to a close pretty soon, but that's a topic for later in the video. And now the Straw Hats actually start to talk with the Kinemon, Kanjuro and Raizo about people that they know who had an impact on Roger's life or were part of his crew, like Rayleigh. Raizo, Kinemon, and Kanjuro met Rayleigh, and they also met Tom because, as Frankie asks if they board the Oro Jackson, it was made by his master, and they say, "What? You're Tom's apprentice?" Oh, yeah. And then Brooke asks about Crocus, and then this is where Nami steps in for yet another. I don't want to say big because it's not wow a mind-blowing thing, but it's actually a pretty interesting fact that until this chapter everyone had forgotten. At least I admit that, which is the log pose. A few weeks back I actually thought about it. Oops, sorry about that, I punched my mic. A few weeks back I actually thought about that because it felt strange to me to have a log pose with 3 needles, and ever since like what? Ever since really they come back when we saw no not even that, because then she had the normal log pose. After Fishman Island she received the 3 needle log pose, but she didn't even use it yet because it was pointing to 3 islands. One of them we know it was the island with the raining thunder. They ended up not going there because of Pancasa. Then to Dressrosa, they went with Law, and Law guided them to Dressrosa. And then from Dressrosa to Zou, they had a Beaver Guard. So the log pose has been kinda useless so far. And as Nami pointed out, and as everyone thought, she actually thought that Laftel was the last island of the Grand Line. And as she reminds us, as Crocus said, As long as they would follow the log, they will eventually collapse into one only road, despite whatever road they led on Paradise or on the New World always lead to one place. And as she believed and as we all believed since the beginning of the series, she actually thought that Raftel was there. But we learn now that it's not. It's not so. And yes, Nekomamushi distracts from the conversation as always. He's still remembering about Crocus. And it's like, oh yeah, Crocus was looking for a crewmate. Don't tell me that. Oh, and Brooke is like, oh yes, it was us. My whole crew died. And Nekomamushi is like, oh my god, you're the guys Crocus was looking for. It's so funny to see them interacting with them. But Inumarashi is always the collected and calm character he is. He talks to Nami and says, don't worry. Yes, there is an island at the end. You're not doing a bad job. But since you've already came here, the whole point of going to the end is redundant. Because, and surprise, surprise, the last island of the Grand Line of the New World, it's actually the place where they should learn about the poneglyphs. So, could that be the island that Robin is seeking? Imagine that. Could it be the island of the Rio poneglyph? Or at least the final step. Of course, the final step, it is the final step before Laftel. What am I thinking? But imagine if it's like putting Laftel aside. Laftel is like the final paragraph of the story. Let's imagine that. But let's think. Could the last island of the Grand Line actually be the place where the majority of the Void Center's history is combined and written? Could it be the place that Robin is looking for? That would be pretty interesting, and it would be the way to make that destination not redundant, to make that destination important again, because they would have a reason to go there, so that Robin could actually learn the whole story for herself. It's a thing that I thought right now, given Inuarashi's statement about being the place where they learn about the mystery of the poneglyphs. They would learn the history of the Kozuki clan, the existence of the Lost Island Raftel. And as Inuarashi said, he got there and then he went back. Because that's the whole point of the journey. You have to get there and then combine the pieces of the journey and see where you should go next. But now it's the thing. Does that island contain the location or the original locations for the 4 road poneglyphs? Because now we know that one is in Zou, of course. That if we're talking about original locations, then the one from Zou actually maintained his original location. One is with Big Mom, the other one is with Kaido, and the other one is lost. So I want to say that if this should be the case, if the 4 locations are in that island, then the 4th road poneglyph was actually taken from its original location and then lost. Roger got to it and then poof, some way it disappeared. Maybe it was guarded by someone important in the world. Maybe we know already of who was protecting it. Maybe we don't. But so yeah, that was my doubt really. If the locations of the road poneglyphs were actually known, because if not, then how would, excluding the fact that Roger had all the help he had, but let's imagine, let's create a parallel universe here. Let's think that Luffy and his crew members hadn't come to Zou. They didn't know anything about road poneglyphs or whatsoever. They just continued on their journey, kicking Big Mom's ass, kicking Kaido's ass, kicking everyone's ass along the way, and they got to the final island. Okay, they are in the final island, but surprise, surprise, it's not Laftel. How would they find out the locations of the road poneglyphs? Would they have to, would Robin be able to help on that sense? After knowing the existence, after finding about the existence of the road ponies, would she be able to draw sort of like of a parallel thinking about everything we've seen so far? Where could they be? So it's, again, it's one of those questions that no one thinks about it except me. So maybe it's never gonna be answered, but yes. And coming back to Inuyasha's talk with Nami, they say that Crocus was also aware of what happened in the Void Century. He learned the whole story. So back then in the Twin Capes, like what, chapter 100 or something? I don't even know. Around there, chapter 101 or something. We actually met someone who knew the whole story. Well, apart from Shanks, because Shanks is there since chapter 1. But at the Twin Capes, we've met Crocus. Crocus, the doctor of Roger's crew, and he knows the whole story. How sick is that? Thinking that way back, like 700 or something chapters ago, we actually knew someone who knows the whole story of the world. And he did not lie to them. Yes, it's true. He just didn't tell everything. Because, yes, go ahead, go to the last island. After that, you'll get to find out for yourselves. So, and as Inuarashi says, Nami, you're doing a fine job. Just move on. You have not lost your way. And Nami gets all flustered. And the guy starts cheering her up. Luffy even smacks her back. And she starts punching him in the face. And now comes the interesting part. This is the part, this is the part of the video where I'm actually gonna start a lot of theorizing and a lot of opinion dropping. So if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but this is how I roll. Anyway, another interesting fact before we begin: they are yet to gather another ally, and that ally is no other than the former 1st Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, Marco the Phoenix. And my god, was I surprised to hear that name this early in the story. And as I said, I believe in the last video of One Piece, I always suspected that Kinemon was after of more allies than the Minks alone. If he intends to take on Kaido and the Shogun, he needs a bigger army than the Minks. So, but I never imagined to have the Whitebeard pirates mixed in. So yes, and they are going after Marco. And we finally discover how Teach became a Yonko. I believe it was an year ago and a year after, so in between the time skip. In between the time skip, Marco and the remaining Whitebeard pirates actually clashed against the Blackbeard pirates in in an event that's become known as the Payback War. And they were crushed. The Whitebeard pirates lost miserably to the Blackbeard pirates. Granted, it had been a year after the Paramount War, the War of the Best, and who knows the strength of the Blackbeard pirates 1 year after. Even though the Whitebeard pirates were powerful as hell and still are probably, but who knows what kind of power Blackbeard amassed in 1 year. And even though both sides fight with their full strength, it was a large scale war. Its scale, I dare to say, might even be compared to the Paramount War. Only it's between two forces as well. It's Blackbeard pirates versus Whitebeard pirates. Two very, very powerful crews. But in the end, Blackbeard Pirates won, and Blackbeard proclaimed himself, well, not proclaimed himself, but he began to be acknowledged as a Yonko as of that moment. So it's only been a year that Blackbeard is a Yonko. So it was not immediately after the war that he became Yonko. So that's pretty interesting. And now it is on the charts. Marco the Phoenix is going to be recruited, and by him, the other members of the Whitebeard Pirates, is going to be recruited to the Pirate Mink Ninja Alliance. And now, this is the first problem, this is the first long-term problem that the story is facing. First route, Hinoarashi, not Hinoarashi, well, at least not so far, but Nekomamushi and his guardians are going to look for Marco. First route. First intersection of that route, Edward Weevil, the 7th Shichibukai, is also looking for Marco. Now, assuming that Nekomamushi is going to take at least one member of the Straw Hats with him, I believe that Frankie and Usopp might go with Nekomamushi to go after Marco. Why do I think this? I don't know. I just did. that's the best answer you can give to anyone everywhere. No, don't actually use that as an excuse. But I don't know. I just think that if we're gonna have, let's start dividing the groups. We have Luffy, Peckham's, Nami, Chopper, and Brook on one end, going to infiltrate Big Mom's party and save Sanji and make a copy of the Poneglyph. One group. Second group, Heart Pirates, possibly Zoro, the Samurais, going to Wano. And I believe Robin might go with them because Wano is a country full of history, and Robin likes history, and so I believe that Robin will go with Zoro, Law, and the others to Wano. So, second group decided. First intermission, Kaido in and on itself, of course, the Shogun of Wano, and now most recent at the end of this chapter, we have Jack arriving in Zou. So we'll see, but that's a general intermission for all the three groups. Third group, Nekomamushi and his guardians going to look for Marco, or if I'm not mistaken, someone who might know where Marco is. My question now is, let us forget the end of this chapter. The end of this chapter never existed so far. If the three groups would go with their merry ways separated, what would happen to the rest of the Minks? What would happen to Inuarashi? Would he stay in Zou with the rest of the Minks? I don't know. If he was to leave, would he leave Zunisha abandoned like that? It's hard to think now, considering the end of this chapter, the imminent destruction of Zunisha by the hands of Jack. If Zunisha actually gets destroyed, then not only we lose a century-old, not even century, a millennium-old country, but also we lose one of the road poneglyphs, which is not that much of a problem because Robin already has its transcription. So, and if the One Piece is achieved by the end of the series, then there's no need to achieve it again. So the location of Laftel would be known to the whole world, and there would be no need to have the road poneglyphs still in existence. So having it in the bottom of the ocean is not really that bad. The problem here is losing Zou itself. And so this is basically the rest of the chapter. They actually dividing the groups, Law offering himself to take them to Wano, and then them getting to the rest of the Minks, and they finding that Raizo is well and celebrating again. Nami saying that she wants to go with Luffy, and thus the team is formed of Luffy. Oh God. I've been reading Dressrosa again, so yeah, Luffy's name is in my head. Of Luffy, Nami, Brook, and Chopper, first team, and then it begins. It begins the end of the chapter, the destruction of Zunisha by the hands of Jack. And thus the warning that this week there's not going to be a chapter of One Piece. So that's why I actually took it a bit lazy and I'm only recording this week. But before I comment on Luffy's last sentence, I'm worried, and I'm going to express my concern to you guys now. My concern is this very ending. Ever since Jack said he wanted to destroy Zunisha, I was kind of both apprehensive and expecting, because on an early theory on my older channel, when I still made videos in Portuguese, I created a theory on the overall Zou arc space-time continuum, what I think would happen in Zou. And on the final part of that theory of the end of Zou, I actually thought that Zunisha could be destroyed not by the hands of Jack, but by the hands of Kaido himself. So by the hands of Kaido, it's not going to be possible, at least not now. But Zunisha's destruction seems unavoidable. It really does. And now the thing is, if Jack, when he first came to Zou, if he was about to be defeated by the Minks, then why would he come back? Because, let's be honest, the Minks won't fall for the same trick again. He won't be able to get the poison gas out in the open again, unless he's stealthy about it, which I doubt it. He's not going to be able to use the same trick again. True, the Minks are weak, but they now have the Hard Pirates, the Strawhead Pirates, the Ninjas, and yes, that's all they have. But the thing is, I believe that if Jack is to be faced again, he will be defeated now. And yes, you can rage all you want in the comments, you can call me whatever you want, you can say that Jack's not gonna fall that easily, but just remember, he was about to be defeated by the Minks. The Minks. Now, I'm not implying that Jack is weak, on the contrary, he's pretty strong and pretty crazy. He went against an armada of the Marines with 2 vice admirals, an admiral, and a former fleet admiral. He's crazy and he's pretty strong. He managed to hold his ground. He's not a calamity of Kaido for nothing. But the thing is, if he gets back, if he's to be faced again, is he gonna retreat again? Is he gonna escape a second time and then be faced later in Kaido's arc in Wano? Because I don't really see that happening. He goes there, he destroys Zunisha, he takes whatever he wants, and then, okay guys, see you back in Wano. And you, Zoro, I'm looking for you, I'm gonna face you. Because I think Jack will face Zoro either now or in Wano. And that's the thing, unless he really destroys them, which I wouldn't like to see happening, what will be the end for Jack now? Is he just gonna destroy Zunisha and leave? I don't see that happening, because if he tortured Sheep for coming back with a false information that Rizo wasn't there, what would Kaido do if Jack came to him with the same excuse? I really don't think Kaido would be pleased with that. So, destroying and leaving for Jack now is not an option. Will he stay and fight? Yes, I believe so, but against who? That's the question. We have 3 groups. Assuming that everyone, and I say everyone, is going to get separated. On one hand, Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Brook, and Peckham's. This is the most This is the group that needs to leave fast. So, if there comes to be a fight, this will be the first group to leave. It's gonna be like one of those things, like Luffy wants to stay, but Zoro is like, no, you need to go save that hero cook. You go, I'll take care of this. So, this is the most plausible scenario that I can think for Luffy's group. Luffy's group out of the equation. Next, we have the two remaining groups. The Wano group and the Marco group, which includes Nekomamushi and Inuarashi both. Yes, I believe that Zunisha will indeed be destroyed, so there will be no reason for them to remain there. So Inuarashi and Nekomamushi will both go search for Marco. Another thing is, will both these groups face against Jack? I believe so. In fact, more than believing, I think that it should be so, because neither the Minks, neither the Wano group alone can face against Jack. The Minks, because they are weak, if they were at their full strength, they couldn't be able to do it. And the ninja pirate, the ninjas and the heart pirates and Zoro and Robin, well, the remaining Straw Hats, wouldn't be able to hold him on by themselves. Once again, I am not, how can I say this? I'm not underestimating Zoro or any of the other Straw Hats. Zoro did a fine job in Dressrosa, but the scales are up a little bit now. We're talking about a Yonko subordinate. We're not talking about some jackass who has a complete trust on his devil fruit that can suck up stone and become a massive stone giant. We're talking about a guy who's worth 1 billion berries and is a subordinate of a Yonko. So the scales are a bit higher than what they were with Pika. And so, yes, if they indeed go to battle with Jack, will Jack be defeated? Will he be defeated for good? Or will it be like it was against the Marines and against Zou and against the Minks the first time? He will be pushed to a corner, retreat, and then go back to Kaido crying his... I really don't see something like this happen, because it doesn't make sense for a Yonko subordinate to be defeated right now. Because if he's defeated right now, what impression do we make for the other two calamities? Leaving Kaido aside, because my god, Kaido broke the scales far and wide through the atmosphere. But let us just focus on the calamities. Let's assume that all the calamities are on an equivalent stage of strength. If Jack falls now, what impression does it make for the other two calamities? If you catch my drift. Once again, not saying that Jack is weak, but he could show us something more. Then again, we don't know what will happen. Only Oda knows what will happen. These last few chapters have been full of theories, and those theories have been brought to the ground. These things I've been saying will probably be brought to the ground as well. So yes, last thing on the video I want to speak with you guys, and forgive me, this video is probably a lot longer. Yes, nearly 14 minutes. I've been talking for nearly an hour, but enough of that. Very quick, I want to point you guys for 3 things that are happening in the world that we might be beginning to forget ourselves about them. First of all, Jesus Burgess and the remaining Blackbeard pirates, well, Jesus is already there, but the remaining Blackbeard pirates, at least Laffy, Shiryu and Doc Q, are going to Baltigo, as well as the revolutionary leaders. What do you guys think about that? Will it happen off screen and then we have flashbacks on that? Will it happen on screen? Will we have like 5 chapters of that whole jig going on? I don't know, but I really want to see the leaders of the revolutionaries. I want to see Blackbeard's crew after the time skip. Not Blackbeard for now, but I want to see the remaining Blackbeard crew members. So that's the first point. Blackbeard pirates going to Baltico and the revolutionary leaders as well. Second point, I mentioned it in the video already. Edward Weevil hunting Whitebeard allies and his crew. I believe he will meet with the Mings who are trying to find Marco, and that will spark a little confrontation between them. It might not happen. He might get to Marco before them, and the Minks and the Straw Hats, if the Straw Hats go with them, the Minks actually come to the rescue, let us say. So, yes, second event happening in the world. Third event, Kaido versus Kid, Hapu, Hawkins, and Killer. So yes, they can't die, because I mean, they're supernovas. One of them is the direct contestant of Luffy of the worst generation, and the other two are just allies. But they will get their ass kicked. I believe that. Next time we'll see they will be stretched in the ground, bleeding all over. Except Kid, he will be bleeding, but he's gonna be able to hold his ground for a little while longer. What I think will happen is they will be forced to ally themselves with Kaido. What I believe is that Kaido will fight with them and he'll be like, you're weak, but I like your spirit. Wanna join me or die now? Pretty much Godfather thing, join me or die. So, and Kid will be forced to accept, of course, either that or say bye-bye to One Piece and this world. So, that's the thing, not much discussion to go on here. And they want to defeat Shanks. So if they say that to Kaido, Kaido will be like, I like that. I like that objective. Welcome to the crew. Something like that. Not as fancy as I make it, but who knows. Fourth and final point of the events of the world, but this one is for later, but I'm gonna say it right now and not gonna go full on extent on that. The World Reverie. Yes, something that has been teased for a long while. Ever since Alabasta, if I'm not mistaken, they've been talking about the World Leaders meeting for a whole while back. Most recently in Dressrosa, where King Riku said the World Reverie is this year and is not long due. So, what do you guys think will happen in the World Reverie? Will it be a smooth meeting between the world leaders, or will the revolutionaries bash into the meeting and ruin the fun for everybody? Who knows? Only Oda does. And guys, I bring to the conclusion this week's video, a gigantic video it was, for nearly 45 minutes of me rambling on about. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the boredom I brought upon you. If you managed to hold your ground until the end of the video, I am forever thankful for you. I am forever thankful to you. I can't even speak because I'm trying to speak very fast. Again, I'm sorry for my delay on the release of the videos. I'm trying not to make the habit out of it, but you know, things happen and I can't really control them. Next week, I will bring you the review of Fairy Tail and the 7 Deadly Sins, combined with the next week's chapter, and next week as well, the chapter 821 of One Piece. Let us see what will happen if they're all gonna fight Jack. If Jack's gonna fight even, you might see that force and be like, well, no, I'm not ready to face those guys. Bye-bye. Well, sorry I destroyed your elephant. Sayonara. And he's gonna go with his tail between his legs. I don't know. We'll have to see. Oda is surely gonna surprise us. And guys, I've talked for long enough. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. And also, don't forget, comment on the comment section down below. What do you think? What you've thought about my rambling? Did you enjoy the video today? It was a little bit different from usual, I guess. It was longer than usual. But if you didn't enjoy it, please say it in the comment section down below. As I always say, my catchphrase, the comment section down below is yours to use and abuse. And now, yes, I say my goodbyes to you, and I see you next week.